So now you jump down to verse 7, and he describes, again, strong drinks are not for the belly, but for the washing of your bodies, to purify your bodies. Verse 8, again, tobacco is not for the body, neither for the belly, and is not good for man, but is an herb for bruises and all sick cattle, to be used with judgment and skill. And then he jumps down to verse 9, and again, hot drinks are not for the body or belly. Joseph first interpreted that as tea and coffee, and later on Hiram Smith verified that on a couple of occasions. Again, Hiram seems to be the one who spoke the most about the word of wisdom. And he clarifies, this is tea and coffee. There are many herbal teas that are beneficial for the body, but the struggle that many of these early church members had was, how are you interpreting hot drinks? And that struggle has continued down to today, where some people want to argue one side or another. That's why I say we thank thee, O God, for a prophet to guide us in these latter days, to say, okay, for now, this is how that is defined. Now, what's interesting is to note what the Lord lists as the don'ts versus what humans then add to this list of don'ts. This isn't terribly different from what happened in ancient Israel, where the Lord gives the law of Moses, and so you get this 613 laws that God has specifically commanded them to do or not to do in the law of Moses. But then you get some who in their excitement for keeping the law of Moses, they say, well, if those are the laws, then we're going to set up fences and boundaries that are increasingly further out and away from the actual words of the Lord, and we're going to make that now become the law to prevent us from breaking the actual law that was given. This happens as much as anything else, as far as commandments are concerned, with the word of wisdom, where people try to say, okay, this is now terrible, and thou shalt not consume this or that or the other, when it's kind of nice to go back and just let the Lord define what those things are through his prophets.
Let's put this up here. Missing the mark. And if God says, here's the bullseye, I want you to do these things, we understand. People want to make sure, like if I don't want to cross these things, well, let's never get inside here, but you start missing the mark. And suddenly people have invented a new gospel. And God hasn't revealed this, even though we can understand why people would say, I want to really help God. And so he's gone this far, we're going to go farther just to show how desirous we are to be super righteous in all things.
Now this is an important concept to understand and to analyze for just a moment. There's a big difference between what you allow yourself to do as far as word of wisdom is concerned, and you could apply this to other aspects of the gospel as well, but let's keep it in the word of wisdom context for a moment. There's a difference between what I choose to eat or consume and what I choose to not, and what I tell other people they can or can't eat or consume. I can make all kinds of decisions for my own life, for my own body. I get the idea that when I eat certain types of things or when I allow certain elements into my body might react to that a little differently than yours. And so now we get into the word of wisdom part, the part that wouldn't be commandment. So let's be very clear here, so not to be misunderstood. There are some specific don'ts that are part of what we would consider our temple recommend questions. That question in the temple recommend interview says, do you understand and obey the word of wisdom? And the prophets and apostles have helped us understand what those specific elements are. And outside of that list, it now enters the realm described in verse 2. Not by commandment or constraint, but by revelation and the word of wisdom. It's a word to the wise. Be smart, be intelligent in how you how you treat this body and what you allow to come in, and try to avoid addictive substances, things. Now we're talking about not things on the absolute don't list, but things that for you might become addictive. So again, it's a beautiful principle with promise that if you'll be wise in how you treat this physical body, then it will actually open doors for you, not just physically, but spiritually.